The prospect of having a sort of Sundance indie inflected take on the themes of Now Is Good or Fault in Our Stars does sound terribly kind of toe curling, and I was worried about this in advance, particularly because I knew that also the film was littered with these sort of movie pastiches all the way through. Actually, I have to say, right at the beginning, I found the movie very moving, very affecting. I liked it very much. I know some people have got the hump with it, but I'm not in that camp at all. It won me over, and I went in not expecting to like it. I went in expecting it to be irksomely quirky and not expecting to be won over by it, but I was. So the story is Thomas Mann is this dorky geek Greg. This is based on the young adult bestseller by Jesse Andrews, who incidentally adapted his own screenplay, and I think has done rather a good job of it. So Greg's mum tells him that their neighbour and friend Rachel has been diagnosed with leukemia and he should go and spend some time with her. He doesn't want to do that at all. He says, no, what he's tried to do is to spend his whole life keeping out of any major school interaction, keeping his head down, keeping himself safe, but his mother tells him that he has to. His best friend Earl, the titular Earl, is somebody who he doesn't describe as a friend, he describes as a co-worker, because according to Earl he's just afraid of the word friendship. Together they make these quirky movie pastiches like Senior Citizen Kane and Pooping Tom and A Sockwork Orange, little clips from which we see throughout the film. Anyway, he decides that he will indeed go and see Rachel, and after a frosty start things start to improve. Here's a clip.
So you and Greg are co-workers?
Nah, we friends. He just hate calling people his friend. Dude's got issues.
Yeah, he does. What's going on?
Man, I don't even know. It might be his folks. I mean, dude's mom always telling him how handsome he is, which he ain't. So now he think he can't trust anybody close to him. Dude's weird-ass dad don't socialize with anybody except the cat. So that's a role model, ain't got no friends. Bottom line, dude's terrified of calling somebody his friend, and they saying, hey, bro, I'm not your friend. Then he have to kill himself.
But how are you co-workers?
We make films.
Movies?
Yeah, we've been making them for a few years now. We have like 42 in total.
Greg, you never told me.
Well, we never told anybody about them. They suck. I mean, they're terrible.
I'm pretty sure they don't suck.
Well, you can see for yourself if you want.
That's R.J. Cyler as Earl, who I actually think is the most interesting character in the film. What I liked about it was that it's dealing with material which to some extent is familiar in the area of YA fiction, of young adult fiction. But what it does is it manages to avoid mawkishness and sentimentality, although I don't have such a problem with sentimentality, but without recourse to emotional detachment. It's not something that just feels terribly arch. All the way through the film, you have these very cine-literate, very knowing movie pastiches, and they do filter all the way through the main feature in a kind of Michel Gondry-esque fashion. But at no point do you get that sense of, oh, this is just somebody just playing with this form and showing off and just referring to other movies. Actually, the central thread is that what they need to do is to make an original movie for Rachel. They need to make something to cheer her up. They need to make something to boost her spirits. And the narrative is constantly interrupted by Greg providing this very sort of deadpan, dry, wry voiceover that tells you, this isn't a love story. This isn't one of those stories that you know about in which this happens. And he keeps saying, well, if this were, then this would happen, but it isn't. So this happens instead. And all the time it manages to balance that kind of wry humor, the nods to Werner Herzog, which of course, tickled me absolutely enormously, with dealing with its subject matter seriously, but without mawkishness, but not doing it in a way that made you feel that it was sort of cold or frosty or emotionally hostile. I mean, the best description of it is, and I don't mean this as a criticism, it was genuinely charming. And being charmed by a movie is a special thing. You kind of, you're sitting there and you suddenly realize that the movie has started to work its spell on you. And I know for a fact that there were people in the same screening that I was in upon whom the spell did not work at all. That all they saw was a kind of grating, indie-inflected, self-consciously knowing take on Fault in Our Stars and those sort of themes. Because the novels are actually contemporary. But I thought it was much more than that. I was moved. I was charmed. I laughed. And I thought it was actually pretty damn good.